It is Thursday, December 23, 2021. You can't start a fire without a spark. Even if I'm just dancing in the dark. The gloves are coming off. And the herbs are coming out. My medication. It is December 23. It's Thursday, December 23, 2021. It is about 4:20. Somewhere This is homegrown medication that I take on a fairly regular basis. I am a micro doser, which means I never have more than a couple of puffs at a time, but I do so on a semi-regular basis, just to keep my nervous system at a chilled place. Of course, I'm not smoking when I'm driving or any of that stuff, or operating a chainsaw, or I'm not stupid. But when I know that I don't have to go anywhere, my daughter went to work with the truck, so I don't need to pick her up. Obviously, it is Christmas holiday, so my son doesn't need to go to school. And this is for me the opportunity to smoke during the day when no obligations are preventing me from doing so. Of course, the gloves always come back on. This is the most part of this joint, and I'm already done. I shared a story yesterday, and I will link this video to that story. And in the editing room, I discovered that the audio was fairly compromised for certain bits of the story. So I will tell the story again. I have done this on my YouTube channel before. One specific example that I want to bring up is a story that happened probably more than 25 years ago. I was a young police officer in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I kept a man who was a victim of a motorcycle crash alive by keeping him talking to me. I remember telling this story twice for a very petty reason. I was inspired to tell this story very early in the morning, and I just grabbed whatever toque was available and ended up wearing a pinkish toque with my red jacket, and I didn't like the look of it. I didn't like the look of it. So I changed my outfit and I went out again and I told the story again. And I ended up leaving both versions up to make a point. No matter how many times I tell a true story, it will all come out more or less the same, because it is true. No matter how many times you tell a true story, it will be more or less the same story. And this is something I learned in police academy when I was trained as a police officer. When we would conduct an interrogation, or we would question somebody, that sounds more humane, we would always ask the suspect to tell their story more than once. Because if they were making it up on the spot, trying to deflect and mislead, it would come out. Because if a suspect makes up their story as they go along, and you ask them to tell the story again, they just can't remember anymore which lies they told. It's very hard to tell the same lies twice just the same way, because you made it up the first time, and as you are asked to recall something that didn't happen quite that way because you lied, you tell the story again, but it never comes out right. And then when you catch somebody on their shifting narrative, you start poking in there, and before you know it, they have cornered themselves, and you either get a confession or it is evident that they are just lying through their teeth. If somebody tells the truth, they will go back to their recollection of how things actually happened, and they will tell the same story based on the same recollections, and therefore the story comes out more or less the same. You may sometimes find some details missing in one story that are remembered in the second time you tell it. Usually the story gets more refined and more detail is recollected. Recollected? Is that the right word? I'm not a native speaker. So sometimes I use words not quite correctly, or I use a word that is totally wrong, but it sounds sort of similar to the word that I think I'm saying. I ask your forgiveness for this. Where can I sit? Not too close to the fire and certainly not in the smoke. I think I need to reset my camera. Okay, take 27. This is just a preamble. I am telling this story that I told yesterday. The gloves are coming back off. Not because I want to prove somehow that this is a true story. It is a true story. I know it is a true story because I lived it. And then I relived it over the last couple of weeks several times at a very deep level, trust me. And it wasn't all that pleasant. So I am not trying to convince anybody of the truth of this story because I am not intending to go after anybody. This is a story that happened more than 25 years ago in Iceland, Reykjavik, Iceland. The people involved could well be dead by now because hot. The reason why I want to tell this story again is because I feel it is an important story to share, and also because I had wind interference yesterday and some of the audio was pretty crappy. The gloves are coming back off, as always. Alright guys. This story happened in my mid-20s. The reason why I want to share this story with you is to give some background information about me that may shed some light on why I am so very passionate about certain things. So I was a police officer in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I was in my mid-20s and I got introduced. The gloves keep coming back off, back on, back off, back on, back off. The story of my life. I was both working as a police officer in the heart of Amsterdam, as well as being introduced to the coffee shop culture, and from there to the kind of clubbing, party culture, and from there to the squatters culture, and also partly through my work as a police officer I was introduced to the red light district and was specifically introduced to some very interesting and colorful and notorious people that were kind of celebrities in their own way.